Well, hello everyone. It's been a while, but welcome back to the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast. I'm Charlie. I'm on hosting duties tonight, and I'm delighted to be joined once again with Jack and Calvin. Tonight, we're very privileged to be joined by Scottish Cup winning, I'm going to say legend, Paul, you're a Hibs legend, and Hibs club captain Paul Hanlon. How are you, Paul?
All good, Di. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to having a good chat about obviously the past and the present as well.
Of course. So we'll just jump right into it, and I'll kick us off with looking back. So obviously you've been at Hibs for a long, long time now, all your career except a wee stint on loan. So I guess taking it right back to when you were younger, Paul, how did you become a Hibs fan?
It's family, like the majority, as I'm sure, it's in my family. My granddad and dad, big Hibs fans, and that it's just kind of it's been in the blood all the way through. I think also I grew up kind of more Gorgie side Edinburgh, to be honest. Went to school at Tynecastle High School and that, so probably not the best area to be growing up a Hibs fan. But nah, that was just my family were all Hibs fans, took me to the games, and that's kind of how you get in it, really.
Aye, and you grew up, you started your footballing career at Hutchie. So talk to us about how that came about. How did you get involved playing there?
Yeah, well, it was just kind of the local team. I stayed in like the Stenhouse area and actually played a lot of the training stuff was either at Broomhouse School back then or at Ford Road or at Stockton Park. So it was the local area for me. And I went from like kind of 5, 6 year old until I was then under 14s. So I had a long time there as well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great kind of education, not just as a player, but also like as a young person, kind of growing up, a lot of kind of good values and stuff like that. So I really kind of fortunate that also my dad took me along at a young age, and I got a lot from the experience. But then it kind of came to a stage where I had to decide to move on into more kind of the professional environment, and that came around, as I said, the start under 15 season, where I moved to Hibs.
Do you remember if any of the teammates you played with across your years there made it as a pro as well?
Yeah, there's a few. And my team was Danny Galbraith, who ended up playing for Hibs, so he went to Man United at the time, and I think we went to Hearts for a season from Hutchie and then straight to Man United. But I think that was always kind of in the pathway for him. So he was going to Man United. Another lad, Paul Watson, who's played for Dundee United and Falkirk, he went to Ipswich. Myself at Hibs, and then I was another lad, Johnny Brown as well, who played for Hearts. And then another lad, Chris Renton, who was our centre half at the time actually, but then he changed to be a centre forward. He moved to Musselburgh from Hutchie, went to a centre forward. And then the next minute, he was, I think he might still be Norwich's youngest ever player. So he played for Norwich at like 16-year-old. So I know it was a good team, good kind of growing up in that environment, a good team and good coaches. Kind of set a lot of us on a path to getting into the professional game.
Aye, class. And do you remember how the move to Hibs came about?
I think it was just more playing well. Obviously, it was Sunday morning football, playing well. You always kind of back then. It was always the scouts had the jackets on at the side of the pitch, and you could tell when people were there watching, and with a lot of big games, obviously cup finals and things like that we played in at youth level. So it attracted a fair bit of attention, and then I think it was through the coach originally. I just said like Hib Scouts wanted to kind of come around the house and chat to me and things like that, and obviously it was up to me to kind of decide that we can have a conversation or not. So I had all these discussions with my family, and obviously when Hibs came, it was a tough one to turn down.
Of course. And when you started at Hibs, you were a centre mid. Am I right in thinking?
Yeah, so all through Hutchie, I was kind of attack minded centre midfielder really, and then moved to Hibs, and then it was pretty quickly. But the coach at the time, Alistair Stevenson, who I think at the time he was juggling like 15s, about 17s, and then he'd done like full time in the 19s as well when I was in full time. So he, I think it was literally one of the first games, and he turned around and said, "Like, I think you'd be a good left centre half." And at the time, I think he seen it as like left centre half, so like there just wasn't left centre halves. Everyone was right foot playing centre half. It was quite rare. So I think he saw like a kind of pathway for me there, but at the time I'm thinking I left it absolutely no chance. I've never thought about defending in my whole kind of youth pathway through. Like at Hutchie, it was just for the good side, majority of the time you're attacking, and it was just the furthest thing from my mind. So my first response was, Dad, get me out of here. I can't play left centre half. But no, the more it kind of, I tried it, shuffled out to left back for games, back into centre half, and then obviously Alistair kind of had that kind of pathway and progression in his mind of how I could get towards the first team, and then it helped him being, and it was under 19s manager when I came in full time. So I think he had that vision for me, which I probably didn't have at the time. But in hindsight, it's worked out really well. And I mean, who knows if I'd stayed as a midfielder, you might never have played a game professionally. We might have done better. You just never know. But I'll never change it now.
Aye, and the last question before I hand you to Calvin is when you first broke through, you had a wee loan move to St Johnstone, and you were only there a month. And then when you came back, I think it was Mixu that started to break you into the first team. So how did that feel? Like, obviously, growing up a Hibs fan, putting on that jersey, like it's every kid's dream as a Hibs fan to play for Hibs. So how did that feel? And obviously, been in the team ever since.
No, like I still look back at it and I think obviously that was my main goal. I'd left school, I'd came in full time with Hibs, but my main goal was to get to the first team as soon as I possibly could. Like that was just all I thought about, and like, growing up as a Hibs fan, like that is the dream. To see like my name on the back of a Hibs strip was amazing. And I still think like anytime I think back to that, I always think like how Mixu decided, like it was Mixu's first game as Hibs manager, and he decided that, like, obviously he had I think Lewis was injured, and I think David Murphy had an injury as well at the time. So, but I kind of left back crisis going on. But I was only 17 at the time, and he decided to play me in his first game. Where, looking back, I think he could have definitely asked maybe a more experienced lad to fill in at left back, and probably played it a bit safer for his first game. So I'll always be grateful to him for that opportunity. And then that was actually before my loan to St Johnstone. So I'd played a couple of games here and there. Just as you are kind of at that age, you're on the bench, maybe making an appearance, you're in the stand odd games. So it was kind of like that. The opportunity came to go to St Johnstone, who were looking like kind of favourite midway through the season, but looking like they had a right good chance of getting promoted that year out of what, Division 1 then probably. And they had no left backs. It was Liam Craig, obviously, at Hibs that came at Hibs. He was the only kind of player who could fill in at left back. So I thought like it was a great opportunity to get some games. There was kind of four league games penciled in with the potential of a cup game, depending on how Hibs got on the day before. So I think Hibs played Hearts, St Johnstone were playing Rangers, and I didn't obviously know if I could play against Rangers until the Hibs Hearts game. And Hearts beat Hibs at Easter Road, and I meant I could play against Rangers. But then two games got called off because of the weather at the time as well. So I ended up only three games. And at the time, I was all for kind of staying till the end of the season. I knew I was kind of still that kind of bit part player, but I was nowhere near the level and kind of the stature to demand any sort of minutes in the first team at that stage. So I was all for kind of going back and look, as I say, it looked like St Johnstone had a really good chance of winning the league, which they did. So I was all for kind of taking that opportunity at the time, but Mixie called me back, and I said I was getting in and out, and I said I was always happy to come back, as Hibs is where I wanted to play, and then from there that's been me since.
Well, I'll just hand you over to Calvin to talk about that cup run in 2016.
Yeah, hiya, Paul. So the Scottish Cup, what was the general feeling around the dressing room and the club when the competition was mentioned, obviously before we had won it? Was it nerves, or was it more sort of excitement at the prospect of being the team to actually go on and win the cup?
I'd say more excitement. I don't think there was any nerves. I think purely because I'd been so long. Players are miles better than me, miles better than the majority of the squad in the dressing rooms that we went through. I've not won it, like, so. I think the nerves weren't really there. It was just pure excitement on what could be. I think you could feel it. You could feel it building every single Scottish Cup week. For example, you come out and play a Kilmarnock away, and obviously the away fans are great. But when it's Kilmarnock away, then it's game week and it's in the Scottish Cup. it feels different. It was just, I usually know as well, like these Scottish Cup ties, it was just a different atmosphere all the time. So it was real excitement kind of building, and obviously had a few disappointments along the way before it happened. But I just obviously one of the most special cup runs that I'll ever be involved in.
So, as you alluded to there, there's obviously been you've been involved in quite a few teams that obviously didn't win it before. So, you had that disappointment there. So, after the first victory against Wraith, did you think there was something special about the team that you could go on and win it? Was excitement continuing to build? What was the general feeling like after you'd got through the first round?
It's probably still early. I mean, no one starts talking about winning anything at that time. The draw's still wide open and everything like that. So I think the Rafe performance was probably one of our worst on the journey. Really, kind of just I think Daz popped up with a goal and kind of got us on our way. But it's obviously you can feel the momentum building as it goes. But like I know all Hibs fans know that like you can't take anything for granted. So and at the same time, obviously, we had a massive league campaign and League Cup campaign that year as well. So there was plenty kind of keeping us going at that stage.
Mm-hmm. So we obviously got through that, and then the draw comes out that we're away to Hearts at Tynecastle. What was it feeling like when you found that out? There's obviously the famous clip of John McGinn on the Time for Heroes DVD when he's like
Yeah.
Hearts away, love it. Was that the general buzz around the dressing room? Were you excited to play them and get one over them, or was it sort of cautionary? What was the sort of general buzz around the squad at the time?
It was just everyone was buzzing, full of confidence, and we had just had that kind of fearless squad at the time where there was just lads that were like, just bring it on, and the whole squad felt like that. I think just looking at the whole squad had a right good blend, kind of the level-headed, like composed kind of, and then the kind of free spirits as well, and there's plenty in the middle as well. So we've had a good blend of everything, and we had a real good bond amongst the boys. And also when that draw comes out, as I've already mentioned, the cup games they're extra special, and that one was exactly the same.
So talk us through that day then, just from what you remember it from, all just sort of from your experience. Just talk us through it, and then obviously we'll get to the goal.
No, I think actually I was at Dave Gray's testimonial dinner, and we had a good chat about it as well up on the stage, and it was also Peter Martin was hosting the dinner as well, so he's got that famous tweet like saying
I retweet it every year.
aye. So but that, like, honestly, we came in at halftime in that game and we're like, what's happened? How are we 2-0 down? Like, it felt like we were comfortable in the game, just two moments, 2-0 down from nowhere. We'd had good chances in the game. But we just had that real belief that it wasn't over. And it sounds like it's easy to say now because we did come back, but I remember the conversations. Firstly, like the squad, as soon as the manager's not even in yet, and we're all saying like, "This isn't over, lads. We're well in this. We're probably the better team." And then the manager comes in and kind of reiterates that, and that gave us all the belief to really go for it. And then obviously Jason gets us back in. He's a massive kind of big game player where you needed someone to pop up. He was kind of always the one. So that set up nicely for me.
Yeah, it almost seemed like a bit of a fluke, that goal as well. When it went in with the looping header, I think everyone at that time when that went in, you thought, oh, could it be, or are we just going to fall just short again? It was kind of like living on a knife edge. And then just coming back to the dressing room at half time, who were some of the players that were sort of the voices of encouragement at that time to get you going and get you believing? Who was sort of the standout voices? Was it yourself or Dave Gray or?
I think so. Listen, honestly, like what I said, like it was just literally as soon as everyone got in the dressing room, it was like unanimous amongst the whole squad that like this isn't done. Like we felt good in the game. Everyone felt like they're performing well. We just needed to obviously we just knew we needed to get back in it as soon as we could. Everyone says that kind of scoreline in football is a bit dodgy at times when you think you're comfortable and then it can turn quickly. So luckily that day it turned in our favour, and even looking back at like Jason's goal, it looks a little bit fluky, but with him sometimes you think he could have easily just meant that perfectly. The way he had that the touch in the box where it was just like it made difficult chances just look easy. So that kind of set us on our way.
And then just talk to us about your goalie player, one of your finest moments in your career.
And also the cross comes in, McGinn puts it in, and Daz got a great header on it. Like I think he's still a wee bit gutted that he never scored. But the keeper's kind of palmed it away. And honestly, like I still to this day, I think like my eyes lit up. I'm going to score a right foot volley at Tynecastle. Like probably I was thinking like a half volley. I was going to let it bounce and smash it. And obviously, what happened. It's probably turned into a bit of a slide tackle. I don't know how it's got through the bodies. By the time I get up, I think Jamie Walker kind of falls over me, so I'm not exactly sure what's happened. And the next minute, like I see the ball in the net, but at the same time, Hendo's celebrating as if he's scored. He's like pointing at himself, and I'm thinking, but I obviously just committed to the celebration, and it's absolute bedlam for there. It honestly felt like the whole stand was coming down.
And obviously, you scored quite late on in the game as well. Did you think there was still time for them to come back? Was it nerves or was it excitement again? How did you sort of right to sort of last a couple of minutes out?
Also, you have to flick kind of that switch as soon as you can and get back into it, because obviously anything can happen in football, but there was still time. And I think probably one of the moments that's not spoken about enough is Kevin Thompson clears one off the line for a corner.
That's right.
I can't remember who wins the header for Hearts, but it's going right in the top corner. If Kevin Thompson's not there, then it's 3-2 and there's literally no time. So he clears one off the line. I think actually just before that, I think Nicholas Gunnarsson comes on, slices one off the bar. He slices it hits his own bar, goes out for a corner.
That's right.
Comes in, header. Kevin Thompson clears it off the line. So it was just kind of typical with that cup run. There were so many just little turning point moments that just all fell into place for us in the end.
And then obviously the replay at Easter Road. Did you know going into the game that you'd obviously be able to win it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we were in full control in that game. Probably should have been more, but it was really comfortable in terms of Derby cup tie. It felt comfortable. We all performed well, and probably should have been more on the night, really.
And obviously, just the next game after that, I think we played Inverness. I think it was just after we lost the cup to Ross County. I think it was only a couple of days after. What was that like? That was probably one of the toughest matches mentally for you going up there. Just very quickly touch on that.
So I missed that round with it. I think I was injured at the time. I think it was my thigh. But again, obviously, we played them at Easter Road, got the replay up there. And then that was a crazy turn of events as well, where Mark Oxley lost a contact lens in the game. Gets booked for time wasting when realistically he can't see. He's looking for a contact lens. Gets booked, suspended, and then that's how it all kind of unravelled with signing Conrad Logan. So again, another moment that kind of falls into place that it's just written in the history. It's not until you look back now you think like it must have been written in the stars.
Written in the stars, aye.
The amount of things that just fell into place at the right time for us along the way. So again, another difficult round, but managed to get through. I think Stokesy scored a couple that night. So another round ticked off on the way.
So just moving on to the semi-final, then obviously, what was it like, sort of playing against a decent Dundee United side, and they broke through quite a couple of times, and it looked like obviously use goalie's last line of defence. But how did it feel having Conrad behind you after he'd saved like pulled off one or two unbelievable saves? Did you think, wow, like this guy's like we're going to be all right today, or did you just have you ever had as much confidence in a goalie like that before? Because I mean that was just out of this world.
I know, well, obviously the confidence built through his saves, but at the time obviously he hadn't played in a long time. He's getting kind of thrown in at the deep end, so you're never sure. Obviously, he had a great pedigree as a goalie, but as I said, he hadn't played in a long time. So, and I think obviously we started the game really well. We were just flying, just waves of attack. Jason does what he does for the penalty spot, which was just, again, it's just moments that can kind of turn the course of a game. So we were full control, got the penalty, think, right, put us 1-0 up and we'll probably go in and win it comfortably. Thinks it, also over the bar, and then from then they had a few decent chances where Conrad kind of made the saves. And then obviously we're relying on the penalty shootout as well, which I think obviously our penalties were good, but he took the pressure off the takers a lot when he's making these saves.
So then we get to the final. Just talk to us about the night before, and sort of then just leading into the match and your sort of experience and memory of the match.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, preparation for me wasn't great actually. I had the thigh problem that I mentioned earlier, that missed one round, and then I think I had some sort of foot problem for the build up to the cup final. I don't think I actually trained the majority of that week. And then obviously we kind of got through all the sessions. We stayed at Cameron House, and obviously there's all the preparations in terms of like the suits, ties. I think it was Fonts actually that managed to source. You know, do you remember the bright green ties we had on the
Yeah,
day? So he managed to source these for, honestly, I don't know, some obscure website for somewhere, I don't know, but they actually, like, at the time when we got them, like, geez, these are a bit lively, these ties, but once we actually got them on with the suits, they were great, like, stood
yeah.
out, and now they're kind of, that's one of the prized possessions upstairs, while the coupling and stuff's like my tie, so, um, so we had all that sorted, went to the hotel, everything was pretty chilled, to be honest, like, that's kind of the manager wanted it to be. Um, Usual kind of preparation. We've got a kind of team photo done before we left with our suits and everything on. Sorry, and then it was just kind of. So we'd been involved in a lot of big games that season. Not more so than
Especially against Rangers, like
The
you'd played them
Falkirk
quite
game
a
as
few
well that
times.
had been passed as well. Like we had big disappointment with that. So and the manager and the staff like John and Taff as well. Like they were unbelievable at kind of keeping the spirits high. We had so many highs along the way. We had so many lows that season as well. So it was a bit of a roller coaster. But we knew we had a good group. We knew we had a kind of confident group and one that was so desperate to do well for Hibs. Not just obviously the ones like they'd expect, like myself and Lou and Daz, who kind of knew what it meant and everything else. But the rest of the lads really it was a group that really bought into Hibs, really desperate to do well for Hibs, and even the lads that like McGinn and that, they went on and used Hibs to develop their own career. It wasn't a case of using Hibs as a stepping stone. It was real like determination to do well for the club and a real love for the club as well. So, and obviously we managed to convert Jason as well along the way for Hearts to Hibs. So. There's a lot of lads there that really cared and were desperate to do well, and obviously we fell a couple of hurdles along the way, and this was the one that we really needed at the end.
And obviously, when the match started, I mean, I got off to the perfect start, a goal after 3 minutes. Again, coming back to nerves, does that sort of settle you, or does it just think, well, this has got to be a long 90 minutes to go?
I think if you ask probably middle to front, they'll say, "Oh, this is brilliant. I'm settled in the game." Whereas the back five are thinking, "Oh, we've got a while to go here."
Aye,
Um,
absolutely.
that's kind of the way it is in football squads. There's a kind of different mentality amongst the back lads to the front lads. So, but listen, we started off on fire. We had a few Stokesy was just unbelievable that day, like unplayable, really.
Mm-hmm.
And he scored, hit the post, had a right few chances. There were balls flashing across the box. It was just a right good start, just exactly what you want in the game. And I think their goal came from nowhere, really. Just obviously a decent cross and header into the box. And it kind of, as I said, it came from nowhere. We weren't expecting it, but I see you're playing against Rangers at the end of the day, so there's going to be moments of quality. Um, and then even at the second goal, like it didn't really feel like it was coming at any stage. It wasn't as if it was kind of backs to the wall or that. It just a moment where they broke through the midfield and it's a clean enough strike that's touched tight to the post and that was it really. So that's the kind of where the character had to come in again and dig deep and see what we had. But we had plenty in that squad. We had obviously players that could come off the bench as well, which made a difference, like Zakiti and that as well. So keep on obviously Hendo. So it was another kind of test along the way, but we passed that one with flying colours.
I'm just going to pass you over to Jack now, who's going to ask you about obviously like lifting the cup, how it felt to lift the cup, and obviously the winning goal, and then a wee bit about the cup parade, and then onto this season's just sort of look at this season. So I'll just pass you over to Jack.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk to you a bit about this season so far, Paul. And first of all, to talk about the captaincy, because last season, obviously, David Marshall was a captain. So how did it feel to get the captaincy back when Lee gave you the shout and said you'd be getting the captain's armband for this season?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, the previous manager had like a kind of different structure that he wanted in place. He wanted more like a club captain figure, a team captain, and then like a probably kind of like a vice. So that was kind of put in place. Obviously, when he came in as well, I was injured and missed the start of the season. I'd got a knee operation at the end of the season before, so I was a bit behind. He didn't know me as a person or a player, so it kind of put me kind of on the back foot a little bit in terms of chasing my tail a little bit at the start of the season. So that decision was made. Obviously, like there's no doubt I'd wanted to be the one that was wearing the armband at the weekend, but the way the manager said his structure was at the time, then I kind of had to accept that. So, and then obviously this season he's kind of changed it. He kind of changed it back in at the start of the season. So, I said it's no something that I've got hung up about. To be honest, I've been in a position where over the course of my career, probably even back to like I think Colin Calderwood was the first one at 19 years old, decided that I had the qualities to captain the team for a game. Like I think maybe probably Ian Murray at the time was out injured. So every manager along the way decided that at some stage when the kind of official captain's been out, that I've stepped in their place. So I knew I kind of had the qualities to do it. It was just a case of, so obviously I'll love wearing an armband. I feel privileged wearing it every time I do. So it was disappointing when I'm not, but at the end of the day, it didn't really change the way I behave and things like that around the squad and around the pitch.
And sort of talking about when you had a bit of time off from being the captain, what was it like having a figure like David Marshall, obviously that penalty save in Belgrade, stuff like that? What was it like that having David behind you and sort of seeing his leadership style as a fellow leader? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as he walked through the door at Hibs, he got the respect, not just for obviously that penalty save, but everything he's done in his career, and not even what he's done in his career, just the way he acts as a person as well. So we're lucky to have him through the door in terms of first and foremost player and person, and then also as a leader as well in the dressing room with all the experience he's got. So I think it was good to have someone like that who's travelled about a bit, obviously seen all international football, up and down English football as well. So um, and even obviously when the manager made the decision in terms of who was leading the team on the Saturday, it was always a joint effort, and even not even a joint effort between me and Masters, a number of players that obviously voiced their opinion and have kind of valued opinions in the squad.
And talking about more about you as a leader, Paul, how would you describe your leadership style? And then how do you get players up for games? And how do you talk to the lads, like dealing with emotions? Obviously, when we win a game, we're on a high. When we lose a game, we're on a low. How do you sort of handle that? And what was your like general leadership style?
I think for me, like I always try and stay somewhere in the middle, because I always think in football, like you're never as good as what people say you are when you play well, and you're never as bad when people say you're bad. So I try and stay in the middle, but obviously you kind of need to get to know your teammates when you're the captain and suss out who needs what. So maybe it's someone that needs to be told they're the best player in the team and how important they are and how they're going to win the game for you. Whereas others that maybe need to told like you're not doing enough. So I try and get a balance and always try and kind of have a fair opinion on everyone. So there's no one can get away with you're not going to get told you're the best player and everything like that if you're not performing for long enough. But some people need it to kind of get them going. And I think obviously that's part of management as well if you're the manager, but it kind of extends a little bit to the captain as well. So I think you try and have different conversations with different people.
Absolutely. And talking about back to sort of games this season, well, first of all, talk about the European tour, European run. Obviously, the sort of low of that loss in Andorra, sort of what must have been a shock to the system, to the higher winning 6-1 at Easter Road, the Lucerne tie over both legs, and then obviously the calibre of getting Aston Villa, what was obviously a disappointing defeat, but probably one of the biggest games Hibs have played in a generation. So what was the European run like for you as the captain, as the man with the armband?
yeah, also like playing Europe for Hibs is great. I've had plenty of experiences now over the years. Some great trips, great away performances, away days for all the fans. So it's amazing to get on that journey. Obviously, as you said, it didn't start very well in terms of the performance in Andorra. Put us on the back foot a little bit. So to describe it as a whole, it's probably been a bit of a roller coaster. Has been as the season has been really a lot of ups and downs. Where obviously it started with a terrible defeat. Managed to put that right at Easter Road pretty comfortably. And then I thought those performances were good. They were a right good side, to be honest. Probably a club that probably don't get enough credit in terms of, if you look at the draw, you wouldn't think they're as good as what they were. But our performances at home put us in a great position. But away from home, it was an incredible atmosphere. Like their fans made some amount of noise. And their players were good as well, really intelligent, strong, quick football players. So it was difficult, but we managed to also get through that one, which we knew what it was going to set up for us in terms of playing Aston Villa, which obviously that was a carrot at the end that we were all desperate to be involved in. And then obviously into the Villa games, which we obviously knew were going to be difficult. But looking back, I think we should have and could have and should have been a lot more difficult to beat in that first leg, in terms of it's a long way to go in the tie. Like, I'm not saying like, well, we would have won it. It was going to be difficult, so hard, but I think we could have put ourselves in a much better position in terms of staying in the tie or kind of doing less damage in the first leg, knowing 5-0 that there was a hell of a lot of football still to be played.
Yeah,
But then obviously into the away game as well, where obviously the manager had been sacked by that time. Dave's in charge, and it's hard to describe because you're 5-0 down. It's disappointing. You know it's going to be so difficult to get anything from it, but we went there with an attitude to just go and play. And we passed the ball around a lot better. We performed so much better than what we did in the first leg. While being a bit more solid as well. So we went there, enjoyed it. Everyone enjoyed the experience, and I'm sure the fans did as well, looking at the videos and listening at the time during the game.
And talking about the fans, obviously, you look at the atmosphere out on the Zern, anybody that wasn't there, even like seeing how good it was. Do you feel that helps you sort of give the lads a boost on the pitch as well? As a captain, you hear the fans in the stands and the songs and the noise. Do you feel that sort of helps give you some motivation to push the lads on a bit if they're maybe going a bit slack in a game, or there's maybe a low point in a game?
Yeah, I think that's always mentioned probably before games as well, like how, and especially the big kind of away days where it's like, look, the fans will be there, that like they're here in their numbers and they're here to support us, so make sure we're performing. But we know in the moments when the fans have needed us, probably in Luzerne especially, it just never stopped. And even like Aston Villa, I mean, it was strange because it felt like the more the game was fizzling out, the Hibs fans were doing the opposite, which is incredible. And I think there's loads of Villa fans that have came out and kind of said that it was the best atmosphere I've seen. My mum and dad were at the match and bumped into loads of Villa fans, and they were just like these were incredible, like the best away fans we've seen in years and things like that. So obviously massive credit to the fans, because that could have been, you wouldn't blame anyone for no going, really, because we were 5-0 down. It's a tough one to take, but the fans that were there, in terms of their numbers, it was just an incredible atmosphere start to finish, and even more so towards the end, where the game was dying and the tie was completely gone. But the fans were getting stronger and louder, and amazing to see.
Just a final point on this season before I hand you back to Charlie for the listener questions. Obviously, we've had a change of manager. Monty's come in. Obviously, as a captain, you're one of the first people the manager's always wanting to get in, meet, and sort of get to know the lads from. So what's Monty been like to work with so far, and what are your sort of thoughts heading into the next few games as we sort of try and improve and build on what's been a bit of a mixed bag and a bit of maybe even a disappointing start to the season?
Yeah, also I think there's going to be a lot of new information coming into the players. So I think Kamara was a good start, and a lot of signs of what he's looking for. but there's so much more, so many more layers kind of that he wants to add to it. But he knows, his staff know that you can't all just throw it in one go and expect everyone to take it in. So it will be a more gradual process over the next maybe 3-4 weeks, hopefully. But I think as long as we keep kind of listening, learning, implementing all the information that we're giving us, and it's going to be a huge kind of team effort as soon as our 11 goes on the pitch. We're not playing as individuals, where everyone's got their roles to do, and if someone's out of position, he expects a teammate to be filling in. We're going to be working as a unit and as one team. That's what he demands, and he's not keen on anyone who's out there playing for themselves. So we obviously need to all be buying into it, learning as much as we can, as quickly as we can. But I think once we do get that, we'll be obviously first and foremost exciting team to watch, front foot, forward thinking team, but also got that real hard work and work ethic that'll make us really difficult to beat as well.
And I'll hand you back to Charlie for our listener questions. Now, thank you so much, Paul.
Cheers.
So at the end of these podcasts, Paul, we like to get a few questions from our listeners, and the first one came in right at the last minute, so it's not in the script if the boys are looking. It's from my wee brother Jack, and he said if you could describe from 5 o'clock on the 21st of May 2016 to the Monday the 23rd in 3 words, what would it be?
3 words. Emotional. Unbelievable, and chaos.
I was thinking chaos with McGinn and all that.
Yeah.
That's good. So the next one comes.
Everything, really.
The next one comes from Andy Rogers, one of our good mates, and he said, "What's the thoughts on your song?"
Song, I think it's good. Obviously, I think the fans have really took to it. It seems to be sung quite often, and my 2 young boys, they absolutely love it as well. So, it's great. It's obviously nice to hear the fans sing your name. I'm not sure the Scottish Cup was all because of me, but I'll take it.
I'm hoping that they sing it as a wee thing at the Jambos for mucking it up that badly. But
I think it can. That's probably the best thing about it, because every time there's a derby, they'll be singing it. So at least it'll stay.
Aye. Next one comes from Dave Graham, and he says, "Does the stick you get on social media annoy you?"
I wouldn't say it annoys me, because I'm not actively looking for it, and like everyone knows, when it's there. I try and kind of just ignore it, really. I know, like what I touched on earlier, I know when you're getting stick, you're never as bad as people are saying you are, and also when I'm playing well and everyone says you're the best player on the pitch, you probably aren't either. So that's the way I kind of try and look at it. Listen, kind of the way I look at it as well, in terms of, for me at Hibs, you guys have seen every mistake I've ever made. Like, so, do you mean you have watched me my whole career, and every mistake I've made, you have seen it? Whereas guys maybe come in and a couple of years and you only so it's like Lewis as well. Like they're going to probably get a bit more than most. But listen, I'm absolutely fine with that. I know it kind of comes with the territory, and that's why, as I said, I try and keep myself somewhere in the middle.
Yep. Next question's from someone you'll know pretty well, from Tracy Smith, and she says, "How big a part is your family, and you can include your wife and kids in that, played throughout your career and supporting you through the highs and lows?"
I'll say massive. They're the ones that, like we said, what I was saying, when there is this stick and that coming, they're the ones that are kind of normal way is that you're just part of them. You're not a football player, you're just a normal person. Especially since having kids as well, that's been the biggest part for me. Has been, I come home and I've got 2 young kids, and obviously they come at the games, but whether it's 3-0 us or 2-0 the other team, it doesn't matter to them really. So that can take my mind off it pretty quickly. And then my wife, obviously she's dealing with the bad moods and everything else, and obviously doing a lot to try and help me be ready and prepared as much as I can for training and games on a weekly basis. So that's a massive help. And then even back, obviously, my mum and dad and my sister have been going to my games since back to Hutchie every single week. They go to the matches, and my dad especially has probably been he's more like a calming kind of influence. I was never going to get above my station anyway, but when it came to him, I could have what I think is a really good game, but he was the first one to tell me when I gave a pass away or whatever it was. So he's kind of kept me grounded and level headed, and but obviously been there for that support all the way, and I'm massively grateful to them all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And next one's from Saskia Falconer, and she asks, "What's your go-to music before a game?"
So I think just now it's Josh Campbell actually that does it, but we've had a few DJs, but I like Josh has been probably one of the best actually. He's got like a kind of house kind of dancey kind of vibe to it before the game. That's normally the go to for most dressing rooms I've been in. But my wife actually she thinks I'm a bit of a psycho, because when if I go like running or to the gym or that, I'll not listen to music. I kind of just do it without, which isn't really normal for most, because she can't get in her mind that I can go a run or that and not listen to music. So, but as I said, in the dressing room, Josh is in charge of it now, and he's decent. So,
who's been the worst DJ in the dressing room?
There was a game actually. I actually think it was Andorra away this season, and I'm pretty sure it was Josh had something on, and it was decent. And even like the coaches at the time were going, "Well played, Josh. Good start." And then I think for some reason Rocky took over, and it didn't go well. The lads were like, "Right, get him back off." So it was like a 2 or 3 song stint, and then it was back off again. So that's the most recent one that I can remember.
Aye, nice. And last question is from Albert Street on Twitter, and they ask, "Who's your favourite centre back you've played alongside?"
That's a good question. That I'm gonna have to say 3, to be honest. Nah, 2 definite. No, 2 definites, and one I'll add in later on. So earliest in my career, the time I felt where the person who helped me the most and kind of took me under their wing and developed me as much as they could was James McPake when he came in. So kind of got really close to him and still speak to him regularly now. I felt like he was the one that kind of came in and was like, I felt like a partnership. You know what I mean? I felt like he was there for me, I was there for him, and it was kind of what I thought a kind of centre back partnership should be like. But he took a lot of time to try and help me and improve my game, and so he was a big influence early in my career, and then obviously playing with Daz was brilliant. I think we both got what it meant to play for Hibs. We were desperate to do well for Hibs, and obviously on top of that, he's a top defender, top player. So I love playing with him, and then most recently, obviously playing with Will last season as well was amazing. Where it's kind of came full circle a wee bit, where I'm more the James McPake trying to help. So I love playing with him. Obviously, the second half of last season when he got his into the team and thought we performed really well. So and I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that part of helping him, and he's really good in terms of he'll always ask questions. Something happens, he'll say, "What do you think I should have done there?" And I've enjoyed helping him, and I think he'll have a massive career in the game. Mm-hmm. So it's not one favourite, but it's 3 different along the way.
No, that's great. Well, that brings us to the end of our wee chat with yourself, Paul. So thank you very much for taking the time out your busy week preparing for a game to chat to us.
No, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed that.
Well, we will be back very soon, hopefully with another interview. But until next time, come on the Hibs.